The Detroit Pistons destroyed the New York Knicks yet again. Who is the biggest threat to the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference? We'll talk about it today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years for the Locked On Network, been a credential media member over the last 3 years. I appreciate all of you guys who help make Locked On Pistons one of the best podcasts out there and making it your first listen of every single day. I appreciate all of you guys' support. Thank you guys for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. Appreciate all of you guys. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Later on, we will discuss who is the biggest threat to the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference. Is it the New York Knicks, or is it another team? And then also, Dennis Jenkins signs his contract. They waived Dario Saric. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. I'm recording this right after the Super Bowl. Give me your Super Bowl thoughts. Dominant Seahawks defensive win. I mean, their defense just suffocated the Patriots. I think the Patriots were fraudulent all season, all postseason. Actually, all season's correct as well. So I'm not surprised by this. So let me know what your Super Bowl takes are real quick. And lastly, before we get into the game, I do want to say, I've had a lot of you guys. Now, if you've been a long-term listener of the podcast, you know that I usually only record Monday through Fridays, and on the weekends is usually days off. I've had a lot of you guys reaching out, where's an episode? Where's an episode? On the weekend after big games like this. So I think moving forward, if it's a big game like the one we had this past weekend against New York, I will record a weekend episode. So stay tuned for that moving forward. But I've had enough of you guys ask about it that it seems like it's a big enough demand. But let's go ahead and get into that game that everyone wanted me to talk about over the weekend. That is the Pistons obliterating the New York Knicks by a score of 118-80. 118-80. The Pistons have played the New York Knicks twice this season. They have an average margin of victory of 34.5. They've dominated the Knicks in both games. It hasn't been close. The Pistons have absolutely out-muscled them. They've been much more physical. They've taken control of these games very early on and just don't let go. And it's very clear that the Pistons, I mean, obviously, but if you didn't know about the playoff series last year, let's say Men in Black click the button in front of you, you forget everything about the past, and then you watch this game, or you watch either of these matchups against the Knicks so far this year, you would come away thinking, man, does that team hate each other? Like, do they hate the Knicks? Like, is there a history there? Because the Pistons make sure to come out every time they've played the Knicks so far this year and set the tone and let them know, we remember last year, we know what's happened, and we're here to let you know that last year is last year, and this year is different, and we're going to show you guys we are way better than you guys this year. They absolutely dominated the Knicks. Now, for what it's worth, the Knicks did deal with a lot of injuries in this game. They didn't have OG Anunoby. They did not have Karl Anthony Towns. They didn't have a few players, but the Pistons also didn't have Jalen Duren. So I don't want to really hear that excuse. Also, those injuries should not be enough for the Pistons to beat you by 38. For them to not have their starters on the floor for almost the entirety of the second half. Like, that, there's no injury that should have you getting obliterated that bad. And we now have two matchups where the Pistons, both times on national TV, by the way, both times on national TV, made it clear to everyone watching, we are here to pummel you. We don't want to just beat you. We want to destroy you. And that's twice now they've done it. So I don't want to hear no injury excuses. Also, again, like I said earlier, the Pistons were without their second all-star. They were without their starting big, and they beat you by 38. So I don't think these two teams, spoiler alert for later, I don't think they're on the same level of each other. Everyone can talk about the Pistons' offense and their half-court offense. And I'll raise my hand. I'll talk about their half-court offense. Because you do need to have a level of competence within the half-court offense to go on deep playoff runs. And when we get to the playoffs, we will deal with it. We'll see how it goes. But you want to know what else contributes to deep playoff runs? Defenses that rival the 2004 Detroit Pistons. And I saw a stat the other day. I believe Keith Black-Trudeau tweeted it out. It was defensive rating difference relative to the average. So, like, for example, the 2004 Detroit Pistons team, they had a defensive rating that was, I believe, 7.2 points better than the league average, or something around there. Second in Pistons history is this team. I believe they're around 5.8 or something. So their defense, this isn't just a great defense the Pistons have this year. This isn't just a good defense. This isn't even just an elite defense. This is a defense, when you look at the period of basketball we are in, the inflation of stats, the inflation of offense, the way the game is called, what offenses are allowed to get away with in this era. In 2026, the Pistons are having a defense that is, I don't know how to say it without saying historic, but I don't want to go that far because they haven't gotten to the playoffs. But what we're watching, the Pistons held the Knicks to 80 points in 2026. 2026, you scored 80 points. You want to know what the previous season low for the New York Knicks was? The last game against the Pistons, where they scored 90. So the Knicks' 2 lowest scoring games of the season have come against this team in 2026 when they could not break 91 points. In 2026, this team's defense is otherworldly. And sure, people may say they have something that they can take advantage of offensively. Until a team does it consistently, I don't think you can say anything, especially in the East. This team pummels you defensively. And for what it's worth, the New York Knicks, they don't have, their players and their way of playing and their scheme and their identity, they are not built to handle the physicality that the Pistons come to every single night. They are not built to deal with it. They have more talent, maybe. I won't really argue against that. The Knicks have a lot of talent when everyone's healthy. That doesn't matter to me. The Pistons are a better team. They play better together. They are by far 1,000 times better defense than theirs. And their defense feeds into their offense, and it doesn't matter how talented you are offensively. If you can't score, if you get shut down and you're turning the ball over, it doesn't matter what talent you are. The Detroit Pistons are a much better team than the New York Knicks, and they've proven that now twice. During this game, or I should say before this game, Ausar Thompson got, I believe, the Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Month award given to him. And now you see a lot of people talking about Defensive Player of the Year. If you want to watch one of the greatest individual defensive performances you'll ever see, turn this tape on how he guarded Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson was 4 of 20 in this game. 4 of 20. Ausar had 2 points, I believe, in this game. 2 points. And it felt like he was the best player or arguably the most impactful player on the floor. The individual defense you saw from him on Jalen Brunson was otherworldly. Dennis Jenkins, 18 points off the bench in just 18 minutes of action. He was busting their you-know-what so bad that he was talking trash to them, telling them to get the bleep out of here in the second quarter. He just completely dominated them off the bench. They didn't have nothing for him. So much so, you see Knicks fans acting like, oh, who's this guy? He just randomly decided to have a good game against us? No, he's been playing good all year. Paul Reed, I'll say it again, probably the best third big man in the entire NBA. If I'm Paul Reed next year, look, Detroit loves you. We'd love to have you here. If I'm Paul Reed, I want to go play. He is too good to just not be playing. I think he's the best third big in the NBA that just doesn't play. He's great. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Isaiah Stewart with 15. Tobias with 15. Cade didn't even need to have a big game. He had 10 points in the first quarter. He ended with 11. 11, 7, and 5. It didn't matter because every single body else stepped in and dominated the Knicks. Every player that entered into this game dominated the Knicks with their defense. And the Knicks had no answer for it. They could have had Cat on the floor. They could have had OG Anunoby on the floor. They had some guys on the floor last game. And last time you got blitzed here in Detroit. Now, the next matchup will be in New York soon. We'll see how that one goes. But through 2 matchups, the Detroit Pistons have shown their defense, it doesn't matter. You can try to put one of the key adjustments I see a bunch of people talking about. Well, when Cat's healthy, we'll just put Cat on Ausar Thompson. Good luck. Pistons will put Ausar in pick and roll, force Cat to have to guard high on the perimeter. I'm sure Cat will do that. It doesn't seem like his teammates even believe he wants to play defense. So good luck with that one. They'll just put him in screen and roll and have good luck Cat trying to guard in the perimeter. And even if you want to say, oh, that's a good adjustment, that might actually hurt the Pistons. It doesn't matter. Their defense is amazing. It's elite doesn't do it justice. You will not score enough against this team to beat them consistently. You just won't. And lastly, now the Pistons had, I would say, a lucky 3-point shooting night. They made 17 threes, 42%. I don't expect them to shoot 42% from deep and make 17 threes. But what I am telling you is this. If this team can just get league average three-point shooting, if they can just get league average three-point shot making in a game, because right now I believe they're 26th, 27th. In games where they can generate league average shooting from beyond the arc, you will not beat this team. You just won't. The only hope that teams have against the Pistons is that they just won't be able to shoot enough to stay up offensively, and they will keep the game close and you can take it from them at the end. Or their offense falls apart and you can extend a lead on them. That's your only hope against them. Only hope. But in game, I said this a few weeks ago. The Pistons are a team that their defense is so incredibly great that even when they struggle offensively, they might beat you still by 3 to 5 points. And when their offense is clicking, they'll just blow you out because you won't score against them. So even if they don't shoot 42% from beyond the arc, let them shoot 36, 37% from three. Let them make 11 threes, 12 threes. Let them do something like that, and they will still beat you by 10 plus points. That should be the Pistons' mindset. If we can generate and generate the right enough a number of shots from beyond the arc and just hit our open looks, get our best shooters the best shots possible from beyond the arc. If we can generate that, we are unbeatable. And you saw that in this game. Again, maybe not 42%, maybe not 17 threes in a game, but just league average is enough to make this team basically unstoppable because of how good their defense is in the East. I don't see how a team could hang with them if their offense clicks at all like it did tonight, or not tonight, in that game against the Knicks. Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Khahil. How do you feel about the Pistons coming away from this New York Knicks game? Do you feel like the Knicks can handle the Knicks in a series? Do you think the Pistons should be concerned at all about the Knicks when it comes around to the playoffs? Just what are your biggest takeaways from this game? Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Khahil. Coming up, I want to talk about who I believe actually is the biggest threat to the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Shoot your shot on PrizePicks and get $50 instantly in labs when you play your first $5. That's right, PrizePicks is giving you $50 in labs when you sign up and you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. PrizePicks, is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your pick is right, you can cash it in. You can choose from basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex pay, so you've got options while the games are still happening. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDINNBA to get $50 in labs after you play your first $5 lineup. And it's available in all 50 states, so it's easy to just about anyone to jump in. That's code LOCKEDINNBA to get $50 in labs after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Also, again, I want to thank you guys for helping make the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. We appreciate all of you guys' support. You guys are amazing. Later on, like I said, we'll talk about Dennis Jenkins, who signed his official first legit NBA deal. He's no longer on a two-way. He is on a standard contract, and I think it's a good deal for the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk about it coming up. Pistons are first in the East. They're 38-13. Right now, they are 2 games behind the Oklahoma City Thunder at 40-13. They're tied in losses. The Thunder have 2 more wins. That's the company in which the Pistons keep. That's the company the Pistons are in. Like we just talked about, the Pistons just destroyed the Knicks. And the Knicks had just won, I believe, 9 in a row at that point. They were on a long win streak. And the Pistons dominated them. There's been a lot of talk about some things the Pistons need to improve upon. There's a lot of things that, not really a lot of things, I should correct myself. I would say that there was one very specific thing that people wanted them to improve upon at the deadline. That was shooting or half-court shot creation. Because that is a concern from a lot of people. And despite that, they are 38-13 and just obliterated the New York Knicks, who people were trying to call the best team in the Eastern Conference a month and a half ago. For the second time. The Knicks, though, are still second in the East right now due to the tiebreaker with the Celtics. So do I believe then that means that the Knicks are the second biggest threat to the Pistons in the East? No, I don't. I don't think I have two other teams that I would be more concerned about if I was the Detroit Pistons rather than the New York Knicks. I'm going to keep it like my final thoughts on the Knicks just to give you guys an idea of why I'm not really worried about them compared to these other two teams I'm about to bring up. One, I don't think they like physicality. I don't think they can handle physicality. And in a playoff series, you want to talk about the physicality that's allowed in a Pistons playoff or in a regular season game for the Pistons. I see a lot of people talking about, man, the Pistons are allowed to play physical in the regular season game. Man, they get away with some fouls that other people just wouldn't. First of all, the Pistons lead the league in fouls, so it's not like they don't get called for fouls. But second, if you feel that way during regular season games, I can only imagine how people are going to be feeling after a playoff game. And I don't think the Knicks want any parts of that type of physicality. They don't have physical players. Jalen Brunson doesn't want to deal with that physicality for 7 games. Karl-Anthony Towns sure as hell doesn't want to deal with that physicality for 7 games. And this time around, they'll have Stu. That's not something he wants to deal with. Cade has improved as an ISO scorer. He's improved as an overall scorer. Don't think OG Anunoby wants any parts. He torched OG Anunoby in the first matchup. So I know the Knicks are talented. I also don't think they're as cohesive as a team as the Detroit Pistons. I think they're a bit overrated. I don't really buy the Knicks. So no, I don't think the Knicks are their biggest threat in the East. The two teams that I would say are their biggest threats in the East. I want to start with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are legitimately a team that, and I know Pistons fans would be like, once they hear me say this, a lot of them are going to be like, nah, man, we shouldn't be worried about anybody. Screw that, blah, blah. They're 38-13. Why do you care about them? Blah. The Celtics are probably the only team in the East. There's another team I'm going to bring up that I think is somewhat of a threat. But the Celtics are the one team in the East that if the Pistons drew them in the playoffs, I'd be like, that's going to be a tough series. The Celtics are third in the NBA net rating. Third. I know they're third in the East right now. I know they're behind the Thunder, the Spurs, the Pistons in wins. So people may not be noticing them as much. But the Boston Celtics have the third best net rating in the NBA. The next closest is 1.8 points behind them. They have a 1.8 point lead over the next place team in net rating. And that's just a very on-the-face explanation, but we'll keep going. The Celtics' offense is the second best in the NBA. See, this is the thing. From my vantage point, what I believe hurts the Pistons the most, what I believe can hurt the Pistons in the playoffs, I don't think it's a... Let me watch how I phrase this, because I don't want to act like defense doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. But my vision is a team that is good enough offensively to score on the Pistons' defense to where their defense can't flex their muscle on them enough, and their offense, which we already know isn't the strongest, is forced to try to keep up in a high-scoring game. That's what I think the Pistons' biggest... Like, if you told me the Pistons losing the playoff series, what happened? I say another team's offense took off on them and they weren't able to keep up. That's what I think happens. I don't think it's an opposing defense. We're sitting here saying, oh, the Pistons lost a bunch of low-scoring games because they just couldn't score and the other team's defense was great. That's not what I think happens. That's not what I think the Pistons' kryptonite is. And I think the Celtics' defense, or offense, I should say, I'm sorry. I think the Celtics' offense, because of the type of shots that they take, because of how well they move the ball, and because of especially the coaching that they have over there with Joe Mazzulla, who I think is the best head coach in the NBA right now, I think they will give the Pistons the biggest problems in the playoffs in the East. They take 42.5 threes a game. That's second most in the NBA. They make 15.3 of them. That's second most in the NBA. And, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to act like defense doesn't matter. It 100% does. While doing that offensively, they're also a top 10 defense. The Boston Celtics are by far and away, to me, the number one threat to the Detroit Pistons in the East. The way in which they play, They space you out a ton. They've played small against the Detroit Pistons in their matchups. A lot of their matchups have been close. And you going into the matchups, you say the Pistons have more size. They should be able to dominate them on the glass. But the Celtics have done a good job so far in this season by playing small and still not losing the like on the glass battle as much. And they've done a great job of guarding Duren with multiple bodies and smaller guys because they're forcing Duren to make passing reads, and they're showing a bunch of hands and knocking the ball away from him a ton. So I think the Celtics provide a very unique mismatch for the Detroit, or not mismatch, let me take that back. It's not a mismatch, but they provide a very unique matchup for the Pistons. I think the Pistons could still win this series, but if I had to pick one, it's definitely the Boston Celtics in the East. The other team that I would say, there's only two teams I'm really worried about. I think if the Pistons played any of these other teams, I'm pretty comfortable, very, very confident they win. The only other team I'd say is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have risen to fourth in the East. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. And they just traded for James Harden. Now, I know James Harden has a playoff history. I am aware. I am aware of that. However, my thinking with this is two things. One, I think Cleveland is one of the only teams in the East that can say we'll try to be physical with the Pistons as well. I think the Pistons win that battle, but the Cavs will play physical, especially in the front court. Secondly, there's a belief I have, and look, I may be proven to be wrong with this. And for what it's worth, I want to make this clear. If the Pistons matched up with the Cavs in the playoffs, I'm taking the Pistons. But this is a belief I just happen to have. And I might be wrong. Quickly, the Cavs are also 7th in three-pointers made per game. They also get 41 up per game. That's 5th in the East, or 5th in the NBA, excuse me. Shoot 35.8% on them. They get a lot of threes up. My belief is they have a great player in Donovan Mitchell. They have another really great player, I think, in Evan Mobley. And with James Harden, I think that makes them better in the immediate future because he's available and healthy, and Darius Garland just simply wasn't. So I think that makes them a better team right now. I think James Harden still, to this point, is better than Darius Garland at this point in their careers. I think James Harden's actually having a great year. And despite his playoff struggles in the past, there's always just a part of me that believes when you are dealing with a historically great player, it's just a matter of time before they have that great game or they have that great series or they eventually get over that hump. I know there's other teams that just simply, there's other players, I should say, that just never did. I get that, but I tend to always believe when you have a historically great player, I will always bet on them eventually having that great series or having that great playoff moment or eventually getting over because they're a historically great player. I can't bet forever that a historically great player will be forever trash. And the reason why I bring that up is if Harden can be as great as he is in this regular season, not even past regular season, if he can just be as good as he has been this regular season for the Cavs in the playoffs, I think that causes a pretty big problem for the Pistons because he's great in isolation. He doesn't need many screens. He's a great pick and roll player, but he's great in isolation. So is Donovan Mitchell. Those are two guys that you have two guys in the half court that can hunt out mismatches of Duncan Robinson or someone in the half court and really pick on them over and over, create advantages, and put the Pistons defense in a pinch. I think that having multiple guys that can hunt out mismatches and really get downhill, I think that's something that can break down the defense, any defense, not just the Pistons, but any defense. So and I think the Cavs were already playing really good basketball before they got Harden, to be fair. But again, I'm picking the Pistons if they play the Cavs. I think they're a better team, and history says if you had to put money on it, you have to assume that maybe this isn't the playoff series or this isn't the playoffs where James Harden turns it around. Again, I think the Pistons are the better basketball team. If I'm picking two threats or who I think the two biggest threats are, is Boston by far. And then Cleveland, I'm just giving that puncher's chance to because they have a great player in Mitchell. They have a great player in Mobley. And they have someone I believe is a historically great player in James Harden. And eventually, I think he could get over this hump. So those are the two teams I'd be worried about, but the Knicks are not one of them. I think they get rid of the Knicks. I think they get rid of the Raptors. Sixers are low-key a low-key team sneaking up in the East because Embiid has, I don't know if people have been noticing, over the last 20 games, Embiid has been MVP Embiid. he's been dominating. But obviously, his injury concerns make it to where you can't trust anything with them. Magic, I'm not worried about at all. They've been bad. The Heat, I'm not worried at all. The Hawks, the Hornets, they're about to play the Hornets on Monday night. I'm not worried about them in the playoffs, but I think this could be a fun game Monday night. Hornets are playing some really good basketball. So, yeah, I'm not worried about anyone else. The two teams, Celtics and Cavs. Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter, @Khahil. Who do you believe are the biggest threats to the Detroit Pistons in the East, and why? Don't tell me no one. Don't tell me that. If you were told someone is a threat to the Pistons in the East, you had to pick one. Just tell me who. Don't give me no one. They're just unbeatable. Don't give me that. Tell me who you think's the biggest threat. Coming up, Dennis Jenkins signs NBA contract. The Pistons waive Dario Saric. Dennis Jenkins goes from a two-way guy to a rotational player and now having a guaranteed contract on an NBA team. Congrats to him. We'll break it down, talk about it coming up. The Winter Games are officially here. If you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care most about, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action, the drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Even niche events must become must-watch events when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Olympic Winter Games, are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. That's with FanDuel. Play your game with FanDuel today. Now I've got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors. This one is Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business moving forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the perfect move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and locations. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. To wrap up today's episode, we are going to discuss quickly Dennis Jenkins, who is one of the best stories out there in the NBA this year. A guy who was undrafted, a two-way contract guy. And a lot of times these two-way contract guys, a lot of the two-way contracts don't convert to NBA guys. A lot of them don't end up being legit NBA players. And Dennis Jenkins has played so well for the Pistons this year that it felt obvious for a very long time that he was going to get this type of contract. So much so, I was telling people for weeks, and it turned out to be fact, that Daniss' play played into them wanting to just get off of Jaden Ivey and clear up room in the guard rotation because that's how much they believed in Dennis Jenkins. They wanted to clear up room to where he could play consistently and be a part of the rotation. That's how much belief this front office had in him. And obviously they made that trade with the Bulls. And the Pistons, there was a lot of talk about, okay, how are they going to create this roster spot heading into the final few hours of the deadline. Once the deadline went away, it was clear that the only way they really could do it was to release Dario Saric, who hasn't been with the team. I'm sure he already knew that he was going to get waived. They have waived him. They eat his $5 million for this year. It's a still expiring contract, so it's not going to hurt them that much. And they converted Dennis Jenkins to a contract that I did not see coming. Not going to lie to you. I thought for sure what was going to happen was the Pistons would just convert him to a minimum contract the rest of the year. He'll be restricted in the offseason, and then they negotiate a contract with him in the offseason to give him like a 2-3 year deal. I thought that for sure was what we were heading toward. I didn't think they would want to engage in heavy contract talks during the season. We had already gotten a report from Mark Stein, I believe a week and a half ago, that Dennis Jenkins and his representation had already turned down one contract offer by the Detroit Pistons. So it felt like Dennis wanted to get paid. He wasn't going to just take a 2-year deal that didn't give him the money he wanted to get, that he felt like he could go out there and get more money. Didn't just want to take some low-cost contract. He believed that he was worth something. So I did not think they were going to get a deal like this done, but what they ended up coming to an agreement on was a 2-year contract that used up some of the Pistons' biannual exception space. I don't think we've been told the exact amount yet. Oh, yes, we have right here, $635. 2 years, $8 million contract. So, and this will be used by the biannual exception. This is also the largest single-season sum a two-way player has ever received. He just got the largest bump in salary any two players ever received, and it's warranted. He's been fantastic for the Pistons. He's been a really good backup point guard for them. He's been how he's played this year, it has surpassed every single person's possible expectations for him this year. He's been fantastic. And what's even better about this contract for the Detroit Pistons is that it's a team option on the second year. So if the Pistons, for whatever reason, wanted to opt out and move on, for whatever reason, they can. And that just speaks to the Pistons wanting this flexibility 2 years from now. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. They've refused to take any contracts on that are longer than 2 years. They've refused to give out any contracts that are longer than 2 years. Duncan Robinson is basically non-guaranteed after the second year. Caris LeVert, 2 years. Now Dennis Jenkins contract, 2 years with a team option on the second end, on the back end. They remain and keep this flexibility that they want on this second year, whatever it's for. The most obvious reason for it, which has been reported on a little bit and talked about, I think is very clearly this. It could mean something else, but I think the obvious thing is that they're already projecting the extensions for Jalen Duren, Ausar Thompson, and Isaiah Stewart. So they want to keep those books clear in 2 years for if they want to make a move and add somebody, they can and stay below whatever apron it is. But the reason why it's good for the Pistons is because Trajan gets to keep that flexibility he wants. He didn't have to budge and give guaranteed money. He got to keep the flexibility that he wants, and he keeps the player that has been tremendous for the Pistons. And great for Daniss, seriously. Congratulations to him. I mean, he comes in as a two-way guy, plays so well, he makes the front office believe another player is expendable. They move on from him. He continues to play well. He caps it off with an incredible performance against the New York Knicks on national TV in his final game of two-way eligibility. Has the whole broadcast talking about him, putting the cap on it, and really making it clear, you better sign me, even though everyone in Detroit already knew this. But nationally, it was like painted as a story, like, oh, he really just made it impossible for the Pistons to not sign him, even though they were already going to do it. Like, all of that just contributes to a great story for Daniss, and I feel great for him and his team. Just congratulations to him. Hopefully he continues to play extremely well for the Pistons the rest of the year, contributes in the playoffs for them, but congratulations to him for getting guaranteed life-changing money, a life-changing situation. So happy for Daniss, and this is the right move by the Detroit Pistons. So let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Khahil, how you guys feel about the Pistons signing Dennis Jenkins to a 2-year contract with the team option on the second year. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.